Hello and welcome to the Business Buying Brit podcast, episode 3. If you are looking to build wealth through buying and operating small businesses, this is the place for you. We'll be telling the stories of the men and women who have gone before you, how they've done it, hearing what has gone well, and importantly, what has not gone well. Ultimately, our goal is to learn from their wisdom so that your journey to buying that first business successfully can be accelerated. Today, we have Mr. Daniel Shiermeyer. Daniel started by buying real estate and has moved now into business buying, including car washes, which I'm looking forward to unpacking. Daniel, thank you so much for being here today. I look forward to diving into your story.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So I know that you very excitingly were able to, through your investing career, quit your W-2 last year, which is, congratulations for doing that. What I'd like to start with is just rewind a little bit more and hear a bit about your kind of what your career was and what led to that kind of dissatisfaction of knowing that you wanted to do something more with your life.
Yeah, so I grew up in Vermont, went to school in Rochester, New York for manufacturing engineering. Kind of saw that as a good profession. There's always jobs in manufacturing. And after I graduated, I started working for an aerospace company, so super corporate, and just saw the people that were like in their 50s and 60s about to retire, and they just didn't look like they enjoyed life. So I worked there for about 5 years and just saw that it was a rat race, climbing the ladder, and wanted something different. So I quit, took a couple months off, try to figure out what I wanted. I wanted to move to a location that was better. So I was in Vermont at the time. I ended up moving down to Charlotte, North Carolina, working for a NASCAR team, doing manufacturing engineering. But I saw it as a way better quality of life. But even working there, it's a grind. It's a lot of work, a lot of hours. So I was always trying to I wanted to get to a point by like 35 or 40 that I had enough passive income, and could do what I want when I wanted. So yeah, I worked there until last July. I quit because I had started the real estate portfolio and ended up with a car wash, and were able to grow it and just look at my finances and like, I might not be making as much money, but I now have all my time back. So now I can really figure out what I want to do in life.
Right. No, it's a nice trade for sure. So how far into your kind of career did you start buying real estate? Because I know it's not an immediate thing. It's a journey for almost everyone.
Yeah. So I bought my first house when I moved to Charlotte, mainly because it was cheaper to buy a house and pay a mortgage than it was to rent. So I moved here. I had a friend that was a real estate agent. My original plan was to find a house and rent it with a few people. And he's like, "Why don't we go look at houses?" He's like, "If you have some money saved, we can try to find something." So I found nothing way over the top. It was just a 2-bedroom, 2.5-bath townhouse, and I moved into that. About 3 months in, I had a buddy that was getting his pilot's license, and the airport was right there. He's like, "Hey, can I move in?" And I was like, "Man, my mortgage is $700. You'll pay $450 a month." I'm like, "Sweet, I can live for like $300. Yeah, sure." And then fell into bigger pockets. Just consumed nonstop content there, and so the bigger pockets is like buy a single family and then buy a duplex. Well, I found a duplex on the MLS, brand new. So that was my next move. A year later, I bought a duplex, moved into it. So I did the FHA loan, and then house hacked that as well. So I lived there for 2 years and basically lived for free. I think I had to pay like $150 a month with utilities and everything. So that started that path, and I was like, cool, both of these assets, when I'm 65 or in 30 years, I'll be 60, they'll cash flow this much money. So that's kind of how it started. I bought another house in 2020, and when we bought the car wash in 2020 as well. So started in 2017.
So really, this whole journey has gone from, because given you were able to leave your job last year and you started in 2017, the whole journey started to end when you were able to have financial freedom. And by that, I mean, be able to live off your investments and not have your job was 5 years.
Yep.
Do you feel that that is possible for other people, or do you think you were a kind of a fluke in that regard?
I definitely think it's possible. You just have to have the right mindset. I've always been big on personal finances too. So not living like way above your means. Don't go out and buy a house where your mortgage is 60, 70% of your take home pay. So I've always had that cheap living on that side so that I can save money and put it into other investments.
I think that's a great kind of message to send out there, is like, if you really want it or you want it bad enough, then you can adjust things like your living expenses. And from starting now, 5 years from now, your life could look totally totally different to how it does today.
For sure.
And I just want to recap on the FHA loan that you mentioned. That is a scheme that exists. Most of the people who listen to this are in the US. We do have some overseas. The FHA is a scheme where you can put as little as 3.5% down, I believe. Is that what you put down for your duplex?
I actually put 5% just to get a little bit lower of a payment.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do 3.5%.
Okay, so it's a scheme that allows you to put low money down, and then you are creative and then renting stuff out, the other part of the duplex, and then reducing your living expenses as much as possible.
Yep, and I still think that's possible today. Even though the market's a little crazy, it's still a way to get into a house with less money down and just keep your living expenses low.
Great, I love that point. Okay, so then take us from the point of being at that point where you're able to leave your job. Well, actually, rewind a bit. You bought your car wash before you left your job, didn't you?
I did.
So
yep.
What made you want to move more into kind of businesses as opposed to more single family and small multifamily properties?
So the car wash came up just completely kind of randomly. It's only 15 minutes from where I live. I drove by it a couple times a week. There's a for sale sign out, and this was during COVID, so the world was shut down. My brother sent me a picture. He's like, "Hey, we should figure out how to buy this car wash." And I was like, "I'm more of the numbers guy," and we started looking at it. And I was like, "Yeah, the numbers make sense. The debt, we could make the debt payment." We inherited a house that was paid off, so we had equity there, and that we did a cash out refi to buy it. So I was like, this is how we would fund it, and just from there, I'd never done commercial. I was actually kind of scared of it, and so I just called the sign on the number on the sign. Just talked to the broker. I was like, "Hey, my brother and I are interested in looking at this. We both have jobs. We both have good credit. This is where we get the money to fund it. Do you think that's possible?" And he put us in touch with a lender. Talked to the lender, and they're like, "Yeah, we think we could fund it." So then we started having the conversations. Luckily, during COVID, things were moving way slower, so there weren't a lot of people buying. But just I had a lot of faith in the area. There's still a lot of growth happening in Charlotte, so I knew it would be a good investment.
Okay, that's good. So what type of lender was it? Because a lot in the business world, we typically talk about SBAs a lot. Was it an SBA loan or was it a different type of loan?
We did an SBA loan. So originally the plan was to put 20% down to a regular commercial, but I didn't know about the SBA. I learned through the process. So we did the SBA loan. We only had to put 10% down.
Yeah, I mean so I see a lot of 10% down, sometimes 15% down SBA loans. What would you say to someone listening to this that is, I can't see how you could fail to be inspired by the way you're taking action, but maybe they didn't inherit a house. So if they don't have the down payment, how would you go about kind of raising from other people or structuring things like that if they still wanted to take the same moves you did?
Yeah, I mean, part of it's like surround yourself with people that are also have this investment mindset. It's easy to find a partner or two, and you might be able to use some funds, pool together some funds, and buy a small business. Like ours was fairly expensive. It was definitely scary. It was $825,000, so we had to put down about $90,000, which it's a lot of money. But going back to like the personal finance, if you're saving half of your income. And real estate's actually something that you want to do. Maybe you don't go put it straight into a 401k and you actually just put it into like a high interest account and let it sit there so that you actually have capital to use.
And that's a bold move. That goes against the grain, doesn't it? I mean, when I left my W-2 to start the business buying journey, I cashed in my 401k, which I know caused some people in my life to kind of panic or question what was going on, but I knew that I needed it, and it was good reserves for me, and I do not regret it at all. And it's kind of got me to where I am today.
I haven't done that yet, but I know it's sitting there, and it's on my plan because, when the numbers make sense, the return you can get from a small business is a lot better than it just sitting there. And like I said, I don't have a job anymore, so I'm not contributing to it, but I see the value in businesses being better.
Yeah, and I can see why there's general advice. Like if you're not in it and you're not analyzing spreadsheets and ROIs and returns, like you don't want to be reckless with that. But it is possible to go against the grain and it be a sensible and good choice.
For sure. And also and not even just cashing it out, you can take loans against it. So if you've had a job for 5-10 years and you have a pretty good nest egg in your 401k, you're able to take a loan against it. I don't remember all the details, but if you can put that into your underwriting and the business can pay back that loan, then like there's some access to capital.
That's true. Yeah, I can't remember as well off the top of my head, but yeah, you have to pay it back. There's certain penalties, but it could still be worth it.
But you're paying yourself interest, so you pay yourself interest back, and I think it's a percentage or something that you can take out. Like you can only take out 50%, but.
So when you're looking at car washes, for people who are interested in the car wash world, what kind of returns could you expect? And also, I'd love to hear a bit about how car washes are valued, because personally, I've seen them done more like a piece of real estate on a cap rate. And then I've also seen it in a more traditional setting where it's kind of a multiple of the earnings. And maybe you could just explain also for the listeners what those mean and what your experience has been.
So this was my first business, and I learned a lot of things after the fact that I should have done when I first analyzed it. But when I was first looking at it, I was looking at, is there opportunity to make this better? Yes. Can the operating income that it makes cover the debt and the cash out refinance that it could? That was a yes. And then like I thought with like 10% improvement, then it would start to cash flow pretty well. So it would get 10-20% cash on cash return. So that was how I first analyzed it. Now I look at different, like, is there things to add? I have a better idea, like with traffic counts, how much that could potentially add to the business. So, I mean, a lot of people that buy in car washes getting 30% cash on cash return, which is the cash that you put into the deal. How much cash does it make per year? That's where you get the cash on cash return. But ours is at like 95% now, which is crazy.
95%. Fantastic. Yeah.
Cash on cash. Yeah. So going back to the valuation. So I was looking at ours as with a cap rate. So we bought ours at a 8.75 cap rate. Since being in the business, talking with more owners, other things that I've read, I've seen. So, and I got to go back to what type of car wash we have. So I have a self-service car wash. So 5 self-service bays and then in-bay automatic and vacuums. It's the express tunnels where you drive in and it pulls you through is kind of a whole different model. So I've heard 3 to 5 times earnings, but that wouldn't have got me my deal. And I don't feel like any owners are selling that way because a lot of land value is worth more. I've talked with other people and put offers in at land value plus 3 to 5 times. I've talked to brokers that say they could sell mine or list it for 5 to 9 times. I've heard up to 12 of earnings. So it's kind of all over the board. And going through the purchase and a refinance, I've had to get 2 appraisals. So the appraisals for the bank, they are really looking at what's the land value worth, what's the building worth, and then all the equipment. They're not as heavily on the business. Where like self-storage is kind of just a cap rate, and they feel more comfortable because it's stable. Because my car wash is a service business, so it's a little bit different.
Wow. So those valuations the brokers are giving you, it's getting very high, like 12 times earnings. I mean, what's a typical revenue? What's typical earnings of one of these serve car washes?
Ours, when we bought it, the net operating income was around $72,000 a year. I haven't looked. I think we did after the first year we did 105,000, and then last year I think we did 160,000 net operating income, and it's on track to do better this year.
Wow. I mean, if you just think about another business, because I teach people how to buy their first small business. And if you just forget there's a car wash and you look at, I know net operating income is slightly different to, an EBITDA, but let's just, approximate for a second to pay 12 times, about, earnings of less than 100K. I mean, that is kind of wild if you look at other industries. It's kind of its own thing, car washes, I feel. But it's you are a testament to the fact that you can still make money. Like you've got to pick your niche, go deep into it, learn your stuff, and you can still play the game right and make that money.
For sure.
Yeah, nice. What would you have done differently if you were to go back in time? I know you said you made some mistakes. Firstly, that is everyone's story that I speak to. Everyone it's a bit like buying your first rental property. Like you always hear like, oh, my first rental property was the worst, And then also like, hey, my first business, I did like so many things wrong. But like the whole point is you get better every time and you're just confidently moving forward. So there's no shame in it, but like going back in time, what would you have done differently with that first deal?
So I've learned way more about lending in buying that and the storage and refinancing. So I didn't even I didn't even really look out at other lenders and see what other options there were. And now knowing, I probably could have got a way lower interest rate and the business cash flow way more. So that's one thing that I kind of kick myself. I wish I did a little bit more there. Um, but there's also benefits because we did the SBA loan during COVID. There's the CARES Act, so we didn't have to pay a mortgage for 6 months. It was completely forgiven. So that helped us with cash, and that actually helps by our storage facility because we had more cash than we needed.
That's nice.
And then the same thing happened when we bought our storage facility. It was the same thing. I went with a SBA loan again, but it appraised higher than we were buying it for, and I could have gotten a way cheaper interest rate. So I kicked myself for not digging more into the lending.
How did that opportunity come about, the self-storage?
So same broker that sold the car wash, he had that for sale. He sent it to us like 2 weeks after we closed, and I was like, it's like the biggest loan of my life. There's no way I can get another one. And then like 3 months later, I heard a podcast, or no, like 2 months later, I heard a podcast. AJ Osborne was on the podcast and talking about self-storage. So I just asked the broker, I was like, hey, can I get that information? And started looking at it. And I was like, started looking at comps around the area. And I was like, wow, this thing's got opportunity. And just started working from there. It took a few months to get it all finalized, but just having the broker relationship.
That's great. So more relationships, keeping the relationships going, not being limited by your initial thought of like this is so much debt, but just kind of leaning into it and exploring opportunities. I like that. And in terms of your partnerships, you've kind of alluded initially to working with your brother. How have you thought about your partnerships and how have you structured them? Do you have the same partnerships with your storage facility as you do your car wash? Or separate?
My brother and I bought these two businesses together. So we kind of just went in 50-50, both learning from the experience. Learned a lot through GoBundance on how people structure different deals. I've always been scared of doing like syndications. Not to say that I won't, but it's learned more on how those function, and kind of found it out from having a little bit of a track record and running two businesses. Is that money is not the hard part to find. There's a lot of people that want to put money to work, but yeah, I still have a lot to learn on the partnership side.
What would you say to someone who says, like, I don't have a sibling that I trust, implicitly, like, but they don't want to do this journey alone, so they want to do it with someone? Like, how would you advise going to find the right partner?
It's, man, going to real estate meetups, meeting people that are interested in the same. There's a lot of groups out there where they want to invest their money in small businesses. Getting around people like that. And it's almost probably like a dating experience. You gotta see what their long-term goals are. Do their core values match yours? Like you kind of have to have some deep conversations and make sure you're kind of both on the same path. Mm-hmm. And then that way you guys feel comfortable putting an investment into something, and then running a business as well. So I think finding the right partners is a little bit like a dating experience.
So do you run your businesses yourself, or have you hired almost like company managers for like the car wash and the storage?
So the car wash we still manage. It's local to us, so we're around. But I have helpers, so I don't do as much of the day to day, like taking the trash out and cleaning the bays. I have some people that help me with that. I do more of the oversight and the bigger projects that can add value.
Okay, so it's kind of a hybrid approach.
Yeah, in the first 2 years we were running everything, doing everything. Had helpers if we were out of town, but now I'm trying to focus on other projects, other things, other ways to devote my time. So I've realized that paying somebody else to do the stuff I don't want to do every day gives me a better use of my time.
One of the things I really like about your story is you built up this, kind of nest egg and these investments. And in such a short period of time, you're able to then leave your job because you're earning enough to live from your investments. But then what's really cool about your story is actually because you wanted to, you've actually gone back to work this year,
Yeah.
but it's because it's something you're really passionate about, not because you were forced to pay the bills.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, it's funny. I realized that recently. I had this vision. Uh, I was like, I always want to get to the point where I'm financially free. And then my background's manufacturing, which I still thoroughly enjoy, but I just don't like working in a building every day. So, like, at some point in my future, I'd love to help a startup like bring a product to market, and that kind of fell in my lap. So I am working again, but it is definitely by choice and because I see a lot of opportunity.
It's funny, like it's I've speak to so many people that achieve that kind of financial freedom goal, and it's fantastic, and they wouldn't trade it for kind of anything. But then it's like, what do I do with my time? But the beauty of it is you can really focus on almost what's my purpose, what was I put here for, like what are my unique giftings and skills, and then you can go
Yeah.
and pursue that, which is, you know, kind of a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I pretty much took a year off where I was just managing the businesses, but had so much time. Uh, so just kind of figuring out how I want my day structured, like have a way better morning routine, read way more books, spend time learning, and then able to go on trips when I want to. So yeah, it was really good, and I still have that flexibility with the work that I'm doing now. So that makes it enjoyable.
No, I love it. So I'm just thinking, like, through looking forward to the future, like, how do you see things going for you now? Because you're back in a W-2 that you're really passionate about, but you've also got this kind of base of investments. Are you looking to double, triple down on some of these investing strategies you've worked up? Are you now exploring new areas? Like, how are you looking at the next 5, 10 years?
Yeah, so I'm always looking at opportunities. So with the market currently, it is definitely hard. Like the self storage industry kind of got saturated. It's very hard to get deals. Um, but there are opportunities. Like I networked some people, some older owners. They don't want to sell right now, but I keep those relationships going because I know they're going to want to sell in 3 to 5 years. So positioning myself so that when those opportunities come, I'll be able to jump on it. And then it's kind of as well with the market. It's like I'm having fun working on this project, but it's giving me cash, and I don't actually need that cash because I was financially free before. So still having that personal finance mindset, like that's all just going to go sit in a high interest account and save money, and then I'll have more cash to go buy more opportunities. And then as well, we have a fair amount of equity in both businesses. So when the interest rates kind of come back down from where they are, there's opportunity to dig into equity, which is tax-free money if we refinance that I can just go find more investments.
Some really, yeah, really, some really good pointers there for people listening here.
Yeah.
Well, Daniel, like, thank you so much for coming on today. I've really enjoyed hearing your story. I think what you've achieved so far in such a short period of time is, you know, you should be very proud of. And I think the future
Thank you.
sounds incredibly bright for you.
Yeah.
Where can people find out about you if they want to reach out to you after this?
Instagram, my handle is Free Fly Kid, and you'll see why when I get there. I like to have fun. Facebook, it's Daniel Shiermeyer, and then I actually have an offering if you're willing to let me put it on here.
Yeah, yeah,
I,
sure.
I wrote a car wash guide for like buying self service car washes. So if that's something you want to put in the show notes, it's basically just walking through how to analyze, how to run, and then like kind of what's involved with owning that asset class.
Awesome. No, that would be fantastic. Yes, thank you. Send that link along and we'll get it out to people.
Awesome.
Thanks, Daniel.
Yeah, thanks for having me.